So I want to make another video here, just kind of the status update. As I said in the first video, I'm really making these videos for myself, just kind of keeping a record of the journey of coin collecting. As I said in that first video, I learned through kind of the first 4 years of collecting that it's easy to forget about those early days. And I feel like I have a renewed kind of excitement for the game of collecting and just kind of want to document it. So one thing that I would say is notable is I decided to ditch the Whitmans. And let me explain why. Obviously, there's still quarters in here now, and I'm tempted to keep the blast white quarters in here. But I just really struggled, and it actually doesn't look as bad in the video, but there was no writing here, and I've also changed kind of my mind on how I want to collect. That was part of the reason why I got these blank quarter pages, because I knew that I was going to evolve my view from date set to maybe now full date and mint mark set of Washington quarters. And then also I want one kind of full run that's blast white and another one that's toned. I don't really want to mix them together because I like the symmetry of having them all be blast white. And what I noticed, if you want to mark them down, now obviously this again is a bad example, but if you want to mark them down and suddenly you change your mind, like do we want the 32D or do we not? Do we want the 32S or not? Because cracking that out could be a bad idea. It would be a bad idea, and also getting mint state, which is what I'm shooting for here, mint state at least 65 in every example, is ungodly expensive and just egregious to buy it at the market rate and crack it out and put it in an album. So it left me changing my mind too many times. And one thing I notice is the tough thing about an album like this is if you mark the pages, you can't really change your mind. Once you've marked them, there's no unmarking them. And these are also expensive, very good quality. If you know exactly how you want to collect, I do like them, but I'm not that kind of individual. I changed my mind too many times. So I went with this method, and I kind of wish I started this way because a hell of a lot cheaper to buy little 1.5 by 1.5 flips or 2x2s and get these cheap little sheets that you could put them in. But the nice thing with this method, of course, is you can create unlimited flexibility. You can pop them out. You just push underneath, pop them out. You can make as many notes as you want, or you can make no notes. So this is a really nice one. I'm going to explain this first page here in a second, but one thing I've noticed is this secret hidden gem of value is improperly graded or nearly full red-brown cents. And when I say improperly graded, I mean that a lot of times these are right on the line, and I feel like these grading companies know that over time it will lose its redness, and therefore they just call it red-brown. So in the moment, I feel like you can actually get a pretty good value, and really a fan of that one. Here's another example that I was able to buy for a true red-brown price, but to me, this is still red-brown, and PCGS defines the spectrum as 5% red up to 95% red. In that band, they call it red-brown, which is an absurdly wide band. The back of it definitely is more brown, or red-brown, I guess you could say, versus the front or obverse. So one thing I've tried to do with this album, and I'll see if I can get it in the light a little better, but to create like the color spectrum. So it goes from the most red and kind of going down and to eventually get to fully brown down here, just to kind of create the spectrum, and then do a few toners down here, just because copper has so many looks just as it evolves. So that's my concept with the cents, honestly, because trying to build a full date and mint mark set of copper is huge and expensive. So this was kind of my little play. I love Indian cents. I don't mind wheat cents, but I like the look of wheat cents. So I just kind of went with the colors of the rainbow, so to speak, colors of the copper rainbow. And then the next, so I am doing a full date and mint mark set of Roosevelt dimes, but specifically toned Roosevelt dimes. It has to be toned. And let me pull a couple of these out, which are my favorites. First is this 55S. This was a CAC graded, see if I can get it. This was a Mint State 67, and it certainly traded a premium with some color in it. So I paid about $150 for this coin, which I feel like it's worth multiples of that, because CAC, I've owned many Roosevelt dimes, and this would be a 67 plus all day long, and a PCGS holder and CAC seems to pride themselves in grading everything at least a half point or point lower than PCGS would. So that's definitely my favorite if I had to pick. Let me zoom in a little bit. And then probably second favorite would be on this next page. There's a couple of them here. I got a few more coming in the mail that I'll show here soon. It starts off dark, but when you kind of swing it around the light, see if I can get a good visual of it. You can see the different colors hiding underneath the relative darkness. You got purples. You really have all the colors of the rainbow. Really cool. In the back's kind of a nice magenta or whatever that color is. Another interesting thing about Roosevelt dimes is their tendency to tone blue in the years 56, 57, and 58. I always find it fascinating. Like some years and even some mint marks have a tendency to tone a certain way, and I'm sure it's because of the mint sets. But even coins of the same mint set, like the D mint marks in this era, 56, 57, 58, tended to tone more of a rainbow look, and the Phillies tended to tone blue. If you happen to know why, definitely leave it in the comments. I'd be curious why the heck that happens. And then another one, another secret cut hidden value is nicely toned MS66 Roosevelt dimes. You don't have the complete hit-free or mark-free coin, but you get a lot of the color. I found this color really fascinating. It was a PCGS holder, so you gotta believe it's legit, but very cool. So, and then I'm also doing essentially a version of a modified date set of Buffaloes. So I'm doing the 13 type 1 PDS, type 2 13 P&D, and then from 14 to 1929 I'm doing just Phillies only, because if you go in the teens and 20s in Buffalo nickels and try and do a D or an S mint mark, you're going to spend nearly $1,000 to $3,000 for a 64 plus or 64 or better example. So I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to keep these under $200 each. Here's a really nice 20. One thing I would notice that probably the hidden gem is finding really nice Buffaloes at coin shops, ideally that aren't graded, because a lot of times they will price them at gray sheet, and coin shops seem pretty harsh with Buffalo nickels, at least a couple that I've been to in the Cleveland area. Tomorrow I'm traveling for work up to Michigan. I'm going to stop at 4 coin shops along the way in Toledo, Ann Arbor, Lansing, hoping to find some gems there. Another, I don't know if you guys have ever stopped at coin shops that don't have physical brick and mortar, but rather just somebody that you would have to schedule a meeting with. I've seen them around. I've never actually done it, but this time there was somebody who was perfectly along the way, had good reviews, and appeared not to have an actual brick and mortar shop. So I reached out to him. I said, hey, I'm interested in Buffalo nickels, dimes, quarters, all that stuff. Do you have any? I'm going to be in town. And so we scheduled essentially a meetup for 9 a.m., which I'm starting to kind of like the idea of come prepared. You kind of know what you're going to get versus going to a coin shop and you just don't know if they're going to have what you're looking for, which is part of the excitement too. Part of the hunt is seeing if you can find those hidden gems. I've also, one of the guys, like this coin in particular, a guy in Cleveland recently had an older gentleman that he knew pass away. His wife brought his whole collection in. All of it was raw, and although he had like one of those custom slab things where you could put your own grade in it, and I was able to see them pretty early. And leaving, I talked to the guy and I said, hey, if you ever get Buffalo nickels or Jefferson nickels or all the series I'm interested in, let me know. I'll hop on up and see if anything fits. So I'm hoping that that actually translates into kind of the first sight of some of these. I feel like I hear all the time on YouTube, these dealers talk about certain series come in, they have customers they know it'll go for. I've never actually utilized that method, and I feel like we should do that more. Let the local dealers know that you're interested in a particular series. It'd be crazy not to. So I don't know, just wanted to show off some of the examples here. I have a handful more coming in the mail. The one coin I can't ever justify cracking out is my favorite coin here. This rainbow tone Jefferson nickel. That's a decent look at it there. And yeah, appreciate you checking in. Take care, everybody.